Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. How do you do? Not a bad day on the market yesterday. Huge, like the biggest, most amazing upswing ever. Of course, if not today, one day in the future it'll go down again, and then we'll go up again, and we'll go down again, and then it'll go up again. But the one thing consistently over time, long term, is that it does increase, and Trump his attempt here is to make sure that foundationally that continues to happen. We'll talk just a bit about the surge that now closed with 2,900 points of a gain. And that, of course, is, just a massive, massive jump after it was announced, and moving things around, strategizing here, playing some chess, and doing what is not unlike he did in his approach in the Abraham Accords. And that is creating an atmosphere and an environment in which the good guys, if you will, those people who don't want harm, who truly are allies, they have no interest in harm to the United States of America, and creating conditions in which those people find it advantageous to pull away from our enemies. This is part of this brilliance. With the Abraham Accords, of course, what had for administration after administration after administration been the approach is, well, whatever occurs, it has to be a deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That is the only pathway. That is it. And the Palestinians de facto represent all of the Arab countries. And so in that approach, by default, you had all of the countries in, throughout that region of the world allying itself with the Palestinians. And Trump, his first term, went that route the first time. And then when it became clear to him that the Palestinians were going to be like, nope, this isn't going to work, we're not going to do this, he said, all right, we're going to try a different approach. And it was that different approach that John Kerry, of course, said will never, ever happen. Never happen. You cannot come up with a deal for peace in the Middle East without going through the Palestinians. No country will sign a direct agreement with Israel. None of these Middle Eastern countries will do so. And, of course, what Trump did and what his team did was create conditions in which all of the sudden it became advantageous for those countries to side with Israel. And a lot of it was financial. I mean, the vast majority of it was financial. This is this is just where it is that he proves to be successful beyond so many others, is he, it's not academic. He just looks at what do these people want and what do I want? And how can I lay out an environment, craft an environment in which what I want and what they want ends up becoming the same thing? And so with the Abraham Accords, for example, financially, economically, he was like, hey, look at this plan. If you sign this deal with Israel, this isn't just about peace in the Middle East. This is something that is going to benefit you directly, economically, in a profound way. And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, we'd like some of that. And that's why country after country after country signed on to the Abraham Accords. What we're watching play out with all of this tariff stuff is a similar approach. And that is the real battle, clearly, is between the United States and China. Well, what do we see happening? We see Trump maneuvering in a way in which all of the countries, who are they siding with? Are they joining China and saying, you know what, we're going to do what China is doing and we're going to retaliate? No. They're coming to the United States of America and they're saying, okay, we want to work with you on this. And the great thing about that is strength in numbers. And so why, that becomes a more difficult challenge for China, because part of the relationship that these countries are potentially willing to engage in is one in which China cannot use them as a backdoor to get into the United States. That's something that we, of course, saw with Mexico. This has been talked about. In order to circumvent, to get around the tariffs, they will pop up in Mexico and, oh, hey, these are Mexican-made products, so there's no tariffs on them. And these countries, and this isn't anything that Trump hasn't or his people hasn't talked about, that the countries, if they allow China to do that, then the tariffs are back on. And so what Trump is doing on this Axis and Allies game board here is taking away all of these countries from China as locations that they can start producing or funneling their products through in order to evade the tariffs. And you just watch the game board playing out here, and every one of the countries that says, hey, we're willing to work with the U.S. on this is another nail in the coffin of China's effort in order to beat us in this. If you can look at this objectively, it's just very fascinating to watch play out. And again, it's all, Trump is not some Einstein. He's just a person that has spent his life making deals and learning that, much like poker, you read the person, not the cards. You read what is it they want? What is it that they're trying to get? All right, I'm going to create an atmosphere in which what I want, they find that it also satisfies what they want, so that they come to me. They come to us. And when you recognize that, it's almost too easy, which makes it so profoundly frustrating that seemingly hardly anyone else in leadership positions, politically speaking, in the United States, takes that approach. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447-KSGF. Oh, I also want to talk about this. Christy Fulnecki will join us. We have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, all to come during the show. But I have to laugh at this. So there's the Army's having its 250th birthday, and so they started planning during the Biden administration, having a military parade, because those things take a lot of planning logistically, and so this is something they've been planning for some time now. Well, this all of this sudden has become, well, because Trump is Hitler, he is demanding a military parade in honor of his birthday. What's funny about this is we went through a variation of this exact same false story, fake news, when Trump was president the first time around. We've been through this before, so we'll cover that as well. Tomorrow morning, broadcasting live, Scramblers Friday Road Show, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 72. Tonight clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny skies with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68.
As part of the ongoing deal making, Trump announced he was pausing tariffs on dozens of countries, deliberately not China. This is the whole point, which will see a 125% tariff. Trump says he made the decision to pause the tariffs after more than 75 countries have called to negotiate a solution, which again has. Yeah, I hesitate to call it, as many people have, a negotiating tactic, because I don't really necessarily see it as that way. I see it as a win-win scenario has been set up to where countries are going to have tariffs, and if they don't want them, then they can meet with us, and maybe we can figure something different out. If they don't want them, those tariffs will then go to the Treasury in order to tackle the deficit. But again, if those countries are like, yeah, we'd rather not do that, then something else is negotiating that would also benefit the United States. A lot of people have referred to it as, a negotiating tactic, as if that's the whole point, and that is the sole outcome Trump is desiring by utilizing these tariffs, and that is to simply have them do anything that Trump wants to make them go away. I would suggest proof that isn't the case is the fact that so many of these countries are coming to Trump to negotiate. Because if the reality was there was only one reason for this, and it was to get these countries to, comply, it was only a negotiation tactic. Well, if you know that something is just a tactic and you don't comply with it, then things go back to the way they were, right? I mean, if you know ahead of time that something has only one purpose, and that is to get you to change your behavior, and then you just don't change your behavior. They recognize that this isn't simply for the purpose of getting them to behave a certain way. It is part of a plan by Trump to set the stage so no matter which way they behave, the United States comes out ahead of where we are right now. Again, they say, all right, we'll take the tariffs. That's fine, no problem whatsoever. Then we win because that is revenue that can go against the deficit, the debt. And then if they say, hey, we will negotiate, then, a couple of different things can happen there. Trump gets what he believes is a more fair tariff scenario, more even playing field, or in some instances, these different companies move to the United States. And so it's just all about, no matter which door they choose, the United States is better in that particular situation than the United States was before. And I think that's what gets missed. There's all of this attempt to try to figure out, which door is it that Trump is wanting them to go through? What is this about? What is the point of the tariffs? And what appears to be the case here, and it's been alluded to, but maybe, I don't know, maybe hasn't been articulated in the best way, that it doesn't matter which door they choose, ultimately, because behind every door has been created a positive for the United States. And, door 1, 2, or 3, depending on which one, some may be better for the United States than the other doors, but ultimately, on the whole, this chess match is all about making sure that every decision they make, whatever it is going to be one in which the United States comes out a bit ahead of where we were before. Not even necessarily ahead of the other country, but just ahead of where we were. And, as this is starting to play out, here's what I suspect is going to happen when this works. For example, the good news, though it's just one day, but the 2,900-point gain on the Dow. The rationalization of people who hate Trump in an attempt to figure out why, this isn't what Trump intended. Well, the only reason this worked is because Trump realized that he made a mistake and he backed down on the tariffs. No, He gave them this choice. This is their choice. It's been their choice from the beginning that Trump has given them, saying, you choose. It's very, very clear. There was a deadline. So this isn't Trump even like renegotiating or Trump, the way that this is being covered is making it seem as if Trump has realized, oh boy, I'm kind of in over my head here. By some media outlets. I screwed the pooch. I bit off more than I could chew. And, the stock market's really going down. And, everybody's mad at me. And so, all right, I'll pull back some of them. As if it's a surrender. That is not what's going on. This is a reaction that Trump has crafted as one of the options that they are allowed to bring forth. The reason that Trump is saying, okay, these countries over here, we're going to put a 90% pause, is because they chose that path, that he provided them as a possible path. They are the ones who have come to the United States and said, okay, here's what let's talk. We're willing to do whatever it is you would like for us to do in order to satisfy your desires so that this stuff goes away. This is a win. This is exactly what the plan has been. And what I believe is going to happen is as these things unfold in the way that Trump has planned for them to unfold, they are going to portray it as, well, see, he's changing what he's doing here because he realized he screwed up. No, that is not what is going on here. Some of it is Trump derangement syndrome, in which whatever Trump does, you have to figure out why it's bad. Or anything good that happens, you have to figure out why it is that doesn't have anything to do with Trump. That's how the derangement syndrome works. That's what it attacks, that part of the brain that makes it behave that way. There are, frankly, some people that just don't have the capacity to understand this stuff. And I think there are some that are, particularly in D.C., in leadership positions, who continue to do things the same way over and over and over again with the same outcome that's detrimental to the United States. They will just refuse to believe that doing it a different way is a way that could work. And they will see it as Trump just got lucky and fell backwards into this working out for the United. He just got lucky. A broken clock is right at least twice a day. And there will just be this refusal by the elites, the establishments, to acknowledge that all of this worked. Now, there will be some, and I think this audience largely falls into this category, that will watch this, will listen, will pay attention, and may be skeptical. And that's completely understandable. Listen, here's the thing about being in a leadership position, even if you're very good at it, particularly when it comes to making deals, you don't win every single hand. You just win more than most people do. And so no matter how, good Trump is and has been, how great he's been at the art of the deal, and his entire life it has been learning how it is to read other people and to create scenarios that get the other people to come to you and do what you want. That doesn't mean that you're going to be right 100% of the time. So as one looks at this landscape and sees what's going on and even believes in Trump but goes, boy, I don't know, that's perfectly fine to wonder and to recognize that even when you have the best pilot at the helm, sometimes planes crash. But I think those people, if and when this plays out the way that Trump wants, are going to be smart enough to understand why. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis told Breitbart News in an interview in his office that he believes Europe will reach a win-win trade deal with American President Donald Trump that is mutually beneficial for the U.S. and the European Union. The comments came as the EU launched new trade actions with regard to the U.S. The actions, which focus on steel and aluminum, were mostly planned prior to Trump's worldwide tariff rollout last week, so it was something that they were already planning on doing. The muted response from Europe, a sharp contrast, of course, from China, which escalated quickly after Trump's tariffs, prompting the U.S. to respond in kind with further action targeting Beijing, and then China to raise tariffs against, again, back at U.S. So it's been, this back and forth, but I just can't stress enough the strategy, the overall strategy here. And when it came to the Abraham Accords, while not talking, well, it did become economic because Trump understood the way to bypass the problem, the Palestinian Authority, when it came to the Abraham Accords, was to demonstrate a way to peel away all of those other countries and their allegiance and alliance to the Palestinian Authority by making it economically advantageous to instead sign a deal with Israel. And that's why, for the first time ever, we had those historic agreements made. That's what's playing out when it comes to China. China is finding itself increasingly isolated. You notice where, every day at first it was 10 countries, then 15, 75. Now it's over 75 countries that are said to have contacted, and many of them publicly have talked about this. It is the U.S. that they are coming to and saying, okay, what do we need to do? They're not going to China. They're not saying we're going to stand in solidarity with the Chinese and we're going to back their tariffs and we're going to do what they're doing in order to stand solid with them. It is the United States. And this is a demonstration of an alliance that Trump is crafting with virtually every country in the modern world, signing on and joining forces with the United States, leaving China isolated. The recognition of what a massive alteration of the landscape that has created just in the last few days, it's very understated how significant that is. Someone had asked a question about, there's a lot of confusion regarding Kash Patel, people thinking that he was removed as director of the FBI, and I'll explain what happened. He wasn't removed as director of the FBI, incidentally, and so I'll fill you in on what information there is regarding a change to some of his leadership coming up after the traffic update and weather. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 72. Tonight clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68.
There was a lot of chatter going on social media, and it was regarding Kash Patel, director of the FBI, and people had in fact texted in, is he not FBI director anymore? What happened? No, he is. He was at the same time just the acting director of the ATF, and that responsibility has now been shifted to someone else, the Army Secretary, and it wasn't really, last I saw, explained why that was the case. I mean, it may simply be because the director of the FBI is a pretty big position, and while he was acting also as the director of the ATF, which is under the Department of Justice, that they clearly needed, even if it's just acting, someone else so that he can focus solely on his job as director of the FBI. And to me, that just seems like the obvious answer, and maybe that is the answer, which is why there wasn't any specific explanation. It was more of just a press release. Hey, he doesn't have to handle that any longer. We've got somebody else to do it. But, understandably, a lot of people who have a great amount of confidence and hope in Patel as director of the FBI had kind of freaking out a little bit that maybe he wasn't director any longer. So I don't think it's any big deal at all. I think it's just freeing up some of those duties that were temporary anyhow so he could focus on the bigger picture. That's my guess anyhow. Lieutenant Governor Wassinger is with us. He's been in D.C. I don't know, you may still be there. You were up there visiting with Trump. I appreciate you being with us this morning. What was the trip for? What was this gathering of and with Trump? If you would lay all that out and let us know what's going on with that.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm back in Jefferson City. I flew back from D.C. yesterday. I got to get back to work in the Capitol today, but President Trump and the White House reached out to me last week. They're concerned about energy independence and keeping our coal industry great. Coal powers nearly 60% of Missouri's electricity. So they were aware of that. They invited me and governors from Wyoming, Montana, and Virginia out for a signing ceremony of an executive order in which President Trump wants to achieve American energy dominance, wants to increase domestic energy production, and had a number of coal miners there. So it was a really neat experience in the White House, in the East Wing of the White House. It was really a lot of fun.
Okay.
Trump has a lot of energy.
Yeah, we played audio from that, in fact. Did not realize that you were actually there. The video that we grabbed the audio from was more of a tight shot, and he had those miners there. But part of the audio we played, of course, was I believe it was the CEO of a Kentucky cooperative, but also a miner who had written a speech, and then Trump signed it afterwards and joked with him about selling it. So we had some of the audio from that event yesterday. Don't you just feel like, this is something we talked about, Trump is just almost a little bit lighter, increasingly, and we've got audio today of him cracking jokes, and he's always had somewhat of a sense of humor, but I don't know, he just seems lighter and more casual when it comes to some of these events. Did you get that sense?
I did. He called out a couple of the governors sitting next to me. He called him out and just kind of winked at him and said hello, and there was a congresswoman sitting directly behind me. He called her out, told her she's one of the toughest lawyers I know. He goes, I'd never want to run against her, but just had a good jovial feel about him and looked like he was having a good time and really wants to make Missouri great again and wants to make America great again. He put us in touch with the intergovernmental relations team at the White House, and frankly, they said, whatever you guys need in Missouri, you think it up and you notify us as to what we can do to make Missouri great again. And not just having a good time, he has a great cast of staff members that are working on this. And, it gave me a chance to visit with these governors from these coal-producing states and also meet with the, Trump's team and start developing a relationship. And to the extent Missourians need anything, they're there to help. They made that very clear, and I made clear that we're here to help President Trump, too, in terms of getting his goals across the finish line. So it was a very, very productive time spent in Washington, D.C.
Well, anytime we have had a lieutenant governor on with us, or I know we spoke with you a couple of times. You were at Scramblers with us, I know, at least once on a Friday as you were running for lieutenant governor. And a question that I tend to ask is, what exactly are the responsibilities of the lieutenant governor? Because, that's not something that the average Missourian necessarily knows. And it doesn't seem as if energy is something that we've really focused on. So why was it the lieutenant governor's office that Trump wanted to be in D.C. to talk about energy?
I'm not sure why Trump reached out to me. Trump endorsed me, and we've got a very good relationship with the Trump administration.
Well, that may be it then.
And they reached out, and we just have a good dialogue with the Trump administration. So they reached out to me, and I had a number of things scheduled. But when President Trump reaches out and says, "Would you like to be over at the White House on Monday?" You all of a sudden, everything that was scheduled in Jefferson City can be rescheduled, and you're with President Trump on that day. So no, we've just had a really good relationship with the Trump administration. The Lieutenant Governor's office has. We know a lot of the staff members. Will Scharf, who ran for Attorney General, was in the room, so I spoke with Will a little bit. Yeah, a number of people from Missouri, and we just have our office has a very, very strong relationship with the Trump administration, and again, Trump endorsed me, so they reached out to David Wassinger, your lieutenant governor, and asked if he could be out there, and I said yes, and we flew out and just had a wonderful time and established put a lot of names with faces, and got to shake hands and visit with President Trump briefly, and it was good.
All right. So here's a question, and it's probably a broad, complicated question, but we get a sense when it comes to energy, and energy costs go up. And I think if you ask a lot of Americans who follow this stuff, why is it that the costs continue to go up? A lot may say, well, it's regulations, and a lot of the people in government that have incentivized so-called green energy while de-incentivizing and essentially punishing the traditional fossil fuel energy that's been cheap and has made us such a wealthy nation. But then, all right, so Trump becomes president, and I think we all do expect that there's going to be deregulation, but I also know there's a lot of regionality to this. Whenever, I think it was a few years ago, we had these, in some parts of Missouri anyhow, gas shortages because in Texas they froze up, and that was part of our little connection to energy where we get it. You hear stories about the tariffs in Canada saying, well, hey, we provide energy to Michigan and New Jersey or New York or wherever. Maybe we'll cut that off. So I know that there are also these little patchworks of situations that can have an impact as well. So, I mean, that being said, is there one easy answer as to why energy prices are high? How much can, on an executive level, Trump do, particularly when it comes to natural gas, like heating your home and electricity, as opposed to like the gas at the pump, but talking more about home heating and air and so forth?
Yeah, so we mainly talked about coal, but as President Trump said, and coal power is, like I said, the majority of Missouri's electricity. And he said coal, unlike nuclear energy or other energy, you could have a bomb go off, and the following day, guess what, will still be there to allow you to power your home? Coal. Yeah. It will always be there. He called it clean, beautiful coal. He designated, I won't get too far in the weeds, but he's asked Americans or the agencies to identify coal resources on federal lands, lift the barriers to coal mining, and, prioritize coal leasing on those lands. So small things like that Biden had put a skid on. He is flipping the script and wants to dig for big, beautiful coal mines and empower and lower electricity prices for great Missourians. So he's really looking out for Missouri's interests. We import a lot of coal from Wyoming.
Okay.
So the Wyoming governor was there, and we visited quite a bit. So it is interconnected. It's not just one state where it's geographic. So what happens in Wyoming comes in and flows through Missouri. So to the extent they're finding coal in Wyoming, that's going to end up benefiting Missourians. And I'm learning this. That's one of the beauties of going out there is they introduced me and educated me on some of these issues, and again, want to move Missouri forward and help Missouri's. They're really fighting for Main Street and not Wall Street. They really are looking out for these coal workers as well. So it was a very, very good meeting.
Well, and I like hearing that fact in particular, thinking about, okay, that energy source coming from someplace like Wyoming as opposed to New Jersey, or somewhere where they are led by people that might make it more difficult and more expensive for us to have energy. So that it's just helpful to know. But at the same time, I think a lot of people have been so accustomed to those prices, particularly home heating and air, whether it's electricity or natural gas. They just continue to go up, and it's hard to imagine anything happening that will actually make them actually go down as opposed to stopping the increase. So hopefully, I mean, I'll say I never truly believed that we would be energy independent in terms of gasoline from the Middle East. And I thought, everyone always said it, but Trump actually did it, made us an exporter of that energy. So I firmly believe if it is possible under anyone, Donald Trump's going to be the one. And that's another fingers crossed and put faith in that. Lieutenant Governor Wassinger with us. Any final thoughts or words for the people listening this morning?
No, my takeaway in visiting with President Trump and his staff is that they really want to fight for Missouri and have reached out. And to the extent you or your listeners need anything that you think Washington, D.C. can provide, they made it abundantly clear they're here to help. And I made it abundantly clear as a lieutenant governor of Missouri that we're here to help President Trump's team get across the finish line, whatever they need. So we have the Lieutenant Governor's office in Missouri has a very, very strong relationship with the White House and President Trump's team. So we look forward to working with them was my big takeaway.
Lieutenant Governor Wassinger, thanks. Appreciate it. Next time you're in Springfield, let us know. We'll have you in studio.
All right. I'll see you at Scramblers.
Yeah,
okay. All right. Thanks,
Fridays.
Okay.
Scramblers,
all right, bye-bye.
Good. Bye-bye. Take care. I forgot he had a 12:40 or a 6:45, and I promised to get him off.
Way to go.
By 6:40. Well, not him, but his people. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get. Sorry, I'll have to text his media person. I'm usually very, very good about that, but I forgot. I should have put that in the notation, but I didn't do it. I didn't even send you the invite. I forgot to do that too. It's all just very distracting.
You just set yourself up
Yesterday,
for failure.
I set myself up for failure. All right. Well, we'll see if we can do just a little bit better. I'll do like a self-affirmation chant or something.
Yeah, go hate yourself in the mirror.
Or make a what do they call it? Vision board? I think that's what it's called. I'll make myself a vision board to do better. So anyhow, thank you to Lieutenant Governor Wassinger. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for all of your home buying needs, your home selling needs. She is top-notch, the best premier. Yeah, listen, people are always working to improve, and there are tons and tons of folks out there that you can utilize. But I'm just hard-pressed. I watch and listen to people, see on social media, and I know there are a lot of really great people out there that are dedicated as realtors. But I'm just telling you, you can't go wrong with Emily Johnson. Her experience, she knows the area. She's from the area. She's straight up just a really good person. And I think that goes a much longer way than a lot of people give it credit for. And she has made the connections over time. She's full service, 100% all the way. So whether you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, either which way, I just can't recommend anyone more than Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. And you can find her on social media, of course. She has her own website as well. It's got a lot of really great tips for selling your home or even maintaining your home. So maybe you're not in the market to sell your home or to buy a new home, but hey, it's turning springtime. Here's 8 things you need to do in order to make sure that your home stays healthy. And, that's just the full service stuff that you get, even if you aren't using her to buy or sell a home at the time. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. All right. So during the Biden administration, the Army began planning a military parade specifically for the Army, but over time it's evolved into more than that because it was their 250th anniversary birthday. And they began planning for it last year because this is their 250th. So they began planning last year during the Biden years because, well, these things evidently, they take a long time. I guess you and I think, how long does it take to plan a parade? Well, I guess if you're going to have all sorts of equipment there and everything, it's just the logistics of it, I'm sure, take a lot of planning. And then if you're going to have other divisions of the government in as well and so forth. So, I something like that, usually government, you're like, oh, it takes so much longer than it has to. But there may be reasons for a parade of that sort. Well, of course, because it is happening or scheduled to happen when Trump is president, well, Trump is Hitler, and he is having a military-style parade just like Hitler did. So this is further proof he's Hitler. I mean, I'm telling you, some of the text messages from lefties and on social media, do you folks never pause to say maybe we ought to make sure we know what we're talking about so we don't look like an idiot once again? It does not take long to figure this stuff out. And in fact, we've been through this before. When Trump was elected president in 2016 and he was invited to the Bastille Day celebrations in France by, I don't know if Macron or I'm not sure who was president at the time, but he was invited there by the president of France, and he was invited to attend with the president their annual military parade. And Trump, when he returned, was like, hey, we need to do this more. We used to do it all the time in the United States. And he just really appreciated the pride and patriotism of the French people. And so, and this was something he talked about. It wasn't a secret, and it was something that we haven't done here in the United States for a long while. I think we did it after the Gulf War. But presidents used to do it. Jefferson, way, way back when. I think Van Buren may have been the last in that period of history that did it. But, it was done for Eisenhower. It was done, Kennedy. So this isn't anything new. Now, the left, as usual, doesn't know history. They have, and oftentimes they don't care. This is just another opportunity because, well, Hitler did this, so that means, see, Trump is Hitler. Do you know how many countries do this? Lots of countries do this. Hitler probably ate veal as well. That doesn't mean everyone who eats veal is Hitler. The United States of America has had these military parades. What's hilarious is that part of the rationale, again, this planning started during the Biden years, in which Biden fully planned on being president right now. So, as in Biden's mind, this parade would have happened while he was president of the United States for the 250th anniversary of the Army. The part of the way the left is trying to convince themselves and everyone else, no, this is because Trump is Hitler, is because, well, but really, 2025, this is also, it's Trump's birthday. His birthday's around then as well. Well, yes, Trump does have a birthday, and Trump has a birthday every year, in fact. What is it? They're supposed to completely scrap all of their plans because it might be on the same day as Trump's birthday? And incidentally, if we want to, part of the excuse, in fact, there was some left-wing person ignorant of history is like, well, it was different when Eisenhower and Kennedy did it because it was their inauguration. Okay, so they did it because they got elected president, while this is happening because it's the 250th birthday of the Army. So if one of those is all about, look at me, I'm the big leader, you should respect me, wouldn't it be those who did it for their inauguration, not in honor of the 250th birthday of the Army? Oh, but see, Trump is Hitler. I mean, just take 20 seconds to figure out what's actually going on before the Trump is Hitler stuff starts up again. This is why you have no credibility. This is why you lost the election. This is why screaming Trump is Hitler has lost all of its effect on people. Because that's all you scream, no matter how ridiculous it is. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. We got Christy Fulnecki coming up in the next hour. Someone noting if Biden did get reelected and the military parade had happened under his rule, it would have been led by drag queens. So that would have been a significant difference. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Someone texted in on the Pyramid Roofing Company Talk and Text line a T-shirt, and it says, I survived the Trump recession with the dates 4/7/25 to 4/9/25. 2 days. This, of course, and it's a clever shirt in response to the fact that a record day yesterday due to the announcements of essentially countries doing exactly what it is that Trump had planned on them to do, and that is coming to the table and at the same time isolating China economically away from the rest of the world. That isolation of China is something that many past presidents have tried to do and have failed to do, and Trump has managed to do it just in a matter of days, which is a phenomenal feat. Now, there are still some things under tariff, and I find it, I get that a lot of people receive their information from mainstream media, and so oftentimes there are misunderstandings, but I do chuckle to some degree when, any price that goes up in this environment, people think it's because of tariffs, whether it is or not, whether it has anything to do with tariffs. They'll pick up a product of the U.S. of A. or some, produce comes out of California, and it's more expensive than they remember it being last time, and it's because of the Trump tariff. No, that's not always the case. Vehicles, of course, a huge focus, and we've been talking about Pinnaker Honda, concerns there about tariffs. Well, don't worry about it. Honda Ridgeline, Passport, and Odyssey, they are all made exclusively in Alabama. In fact, the most American-made vehicle, when you look at the numbers, is Honda, with 70% of Honda automobiles sold in the U.S. are made right here in America. And even those like the there may be some others outside Ridgeline, Passport, and Odyssey, and sometimes you get little hybrids here and there, or here's some parts that come from a tariffed country. How will that affect it? As of right now, all of the current vehicles on the lot at Pinnaker Honda will not have any type of price increase. They've all been invoiced already. So even if there is any sort of tariff issue on anything that would somehow affect a Honda right now on the lot, that's nothing you have to worry about. So it's a great time to head on over there, take advantage, check out what they do have at Pinnaker Honda on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Christy Fulnecki is with us. Hey.
Yes, good
know,
morning.
Did you know Trump is Hitler because he's not canceling the military parade that began planning last year under the Biden administration to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary?
Yeah.
Because Trump isn't canceling that, that's Hitler, because Hitler had military parades.
Yeah, and who actually is saying that? Does it really matter?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I know.
It's just drama.
Or like The Hill, which is left wing.
Yeah.
So their headline, where is it? Here's the headline on The Hill. Trump planning military parade through D.C. for 79th birthday. Well, yes, it also does happen to be his birthday, but I highly doubt that last year when the Army began planning this, they were like, hey, you know what, let's do
the election.
Yeah, that Hitler guy
before the election.
Who's going to, this was during the Biden administration.
Right. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I guess it doesn't have to, because Trump is Hitler. That's all that matters. Just repeat it over and over again. That's the answer to everything. I got a hangnail.
I know.
Trump's Hitler.
Jeez. Gosh, there's so much drama.
No, right?
I know.
Just quit your bitching already.
That's
there needs to be a T-shirt that says that. Pardon my language, but just a message to anti-Trump. Just quit your bitching already. Yeah. Just go live life. Go do something.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah,
I mean, they've had a lot of since everybody has a podcast now, they've had different, commentators having meltdowns and start crying. They're showing somebody, I don't know who it was last night, that was crying over the stock market. I'm like, you probably don't even have money in the stock market.
Listen, I'm not somebody.
It's so much drama. It is funny, though.
I'm not somebody who is anti-crying. I believe, just like laughter, it was something that was. It's part of us that helps guide us through things. But much like laughter, I believe that you get to a certain point in which if you're crying over certain things, the problem is you, not the thing. And some of what you see the left cry over on TV, it's like, okay, no, this is not a an emotionally healthy response to
Yeah.
what is going on right now. You need help.
Yeah, and the thing is, recessions are, people are debating whether we're in a recession. It's completely normal. I mean, why do they talk about bull and bear markets? And frankly, like if you look at the mortgage rates, I know everybody's upset. I mean, they're coming down. But I mean, do you remember when the interest rates were 18% or something? I mean, people have short memories. So, I mean, you got to be thankful. Everything that Trump is doing is great for our country.
But he's Hitler, so it's not.
I know that's right.
Whether or
I
not,
don't think that's very effective, Nick.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It clearly wasn't because he won. Either that, or you know what? That's democracy. And for those people on the left that keep going on about saving democracy, then shouldn't you be supporting Trump? Because if you're all about democracy and he won in a democratic vote, then what's the problem here?
Yeah.
What you're watching is democracy.
About this whole thing is that Trump could give two Fs about what is going on. I mean, every time he gives a speech, he's telling jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell that like his one-liners are very genuine.
Boom.
I know, it's so awesome.
Weather in a moment. Now the latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 72. Tonight, clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny skies with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies once again with a high near 68. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor premier landscaping service, and they customize. A lot of these places, they are lawn mowing services, and if you want some sort of, patio, they'll go to a big box store, they'll pick up the supplies there, and then they'll come do, sort of a cookie cutter basic thing. That's not what Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor does. That's not who they are. In fact, their product is not available in the big box stores because it is premier. And the customization of it, anything that you can imagine, they can design for you. In fact, I wonder if they've ever done a helicopter pad.
Given that is one
That
of your
is epic.
that is on your little plan,
Bucket,
I guess. Your
bucket list.
Well, I know you actually have drawings for it.
I do.
So yeah, I bet they. Well, I know they could do it.
Flying in at KSGF in my
See-
helicopter.
And
I don't land in your parking lot.
yeah, like first day, power lines will be down, and that'll be the end of the Chris Full Necky segment. Well, no, and they could they'll not only do it, but have a nice water feature and have uplighting and like a pathway.
Seriously, have a
You
reality
need to
TV
do it.
show.
You need to do it.
Well, I mean, it'd probably be easier because I go to all of these counties all over Missouri, so it'd be easier for me just to fly my helicopter.
Well,
It's a problem.
HunterHardscapes.com. They'll do it for you.
I know.
They'll make you the most epic. You can have a pathway with uplighting. So as you're walking from the helicopter to the house, it looks even better than when Trump is walking away from Marine One into the White House. It'll look even better than that.
I know, and I should have the American flag, and I can have American flags all over it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so
got
great.
it all planned out. I was gonna play.
That would be great. You know, this is so strange, but have you seen these satellites? I guess are most satellites in the sky.
Oh, the Starlink?
Yeah. I mean, that I thought we were being attacked. I didn't know what it was. And I'm telling you, there were like 50 of them that were flying through the sky, equidistant apart. And I was walking my grandson, so I can now say I have a grandson. I'm so excited. But
Congratulations
oh my gosh,
on being able to say it.
That's right. My daughter's very protective. She said, now you can talk about being a grandparent, but you cannot say his name. You cannot, well.
Hey, you know what? That's much better probably than a lot of, I don't know, with to me, that's a good sign that particularly younger people are sort of pulling away from me, everyone. Yeah, you know.
Last week, how they're pulling away from posting on social media. Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Of course, she's one of your kids, so she may just be, she's not necessarily a representation of the population at large.
That's right. Well, you know, I think the younger generation is changing. Although this is it was a little unexpected. Let's just put it that way. But she's finishing up at LSU applying for law school, so I'm proud of her. Well, but this is all going on during the Amendment 3 discussion in Missouri. And so I know a lot of parents, families face these issues, and when you see the baby, you think, thank goodness that people choose life, because I can't imagine our life without having this grandson.
I have known a lot of people who have regretted having an abortion, but I've never met someone who thought about getting one, didn't, and then regretted having their son or daughter.
Right.
I've never met anyone with a 5, 6, 7-year-old that said, I really wish that I had ended her life before she was born. That I've never come across.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy. Obviously, I mean, and then Missouri made the decision, about the abortion decision in November. So, I mean, hopefully our culture changes, but I think the younger people are at least, I will say on college campuses, abortion's very, rampant, as well as other places.
Well, that's the culture they create there.
Right. Yeah, right. And so I don't know. I think it's inspiring to see people choose life. They should. I'm for no exceptions for abortion. So
yeah, I'm an extremist.
I know.
Also, I fully accept that.
Yeah.
You're an extreme. Yeah, well,
I mean, that's protecting life.
Yeah. There were extremists when it came to abolishing abortion as well. Yeah. Or slavery.
I'm saying that it, for families, they deal with these things every day, whether it's a daughter that gets pregnant or something. So it's different than a political issue when it's actually facing your household, you know? Right, I mean, so it's terrible. It should go back to, something that you don't treat as inconvenience and that you treat, as precious life. So.
All right. Well, changing gears, something much more lighthearted.
Oh, well, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And my grandma name, we had to talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Kiki.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't really use grandma. We use Kiki.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's my name. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kiki. Kiki the Comanche.
I Oh, yes. So we
Kiki
won't
the
say
Comanche
Graham
or Comanche Kiki,
Kiki
which
the,
is better? Do we like
Kiki
Comanche?
the Comanche. What do you
Yeah.
think, Sam?
I like Kiki the
Kiki the
Comanche.
Comanche.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those will be his first words.
Yeah, and
My daughter's gonna kill me.
and I would just indoctrinate him to where that is it. Not Kiki normally, but it's always Kiki the Comanche. Like every time he says it, Kiki the Comanche.
Telling him all kinds of things because I'm explaining. I bought him a Chiefs outfit and everything, so I've been putting him on the Chiefs outfit. But my daughter's a big Redskins fan or Commanders or whatever that politically correct.
Well,
means.
both of them are in the family. I mean,
Well, that's true because my husband's from DC, but
well, I just meant Redskins, Chiefs.
oh, I
You know,
didn't
it's
think
both.
about
Yeah,
that.
both.
Okay, so that's a constant battle, but I think Kiki the Comanche would be great first words for my
Absolutely.
grandson. Okay,
Absolutely. It's easy to say. Also,
I know.
You need
Hopefully
a
he doesn't
t-shirt.
say that before Mama, or I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Oh, I could get a T-shirt. I could get a
Yeah.
onesie.
Yeah.
And put it on there.
Kiki the Comanche.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, a picture.
Yeah,
Indian
property
head.
of or something, or you
Yeah.
know, so people don't think that that's the name of the baby.
Oh, that's.
So you may want to
You're
specify.
like, your name's Kiki the Comanche. Jeez.
What are you? Christy Fulnecki with us. I'll play some audio. Yesterday, Trump was in the Oval Office signing an executive order repealing, which he did the first time when he was president, the regulations that dictate how much water we can have come out of a shower head. And of course, that's an insane thing to do. And so he repealed it, but then Biden put it back in place. He repealed it yesterday again. And we'll play audio of part of the reason, the personal reason. Did you hear he put a personal touch to it as to why it is that this is important to him as well. That next, I'm Nick Reed. Okay.
Okay, you should just listen.
All right, we're on now. Christy Fulnecki here.
Yes. Am I turned on?
Yeah,
I'm
you
good.
are. All right, so got a couple bits of audio here.
Okay.
Now, this is yesterday, and Donald Trump signing an executive order, showerheads, which you may think this is ridiculous. Why is government involved in this? Well, because government, I believe, first under the Obama administration decided that we needed to be told, dictated to how much water can come out of the shower head. Trump became president. It's like, no. Then Biden got in. It's like, yes. And so Trump is once again,
idiots.
yes, yeah, exactly. And so here's Trump, and you'll hear Will Scharf, I think, explaining it. Will Scharf, go.
Executive order, we're effectively going to be reversing that set of regulations to ensure that Americans have choice in the consumer market. If they want a low flow shower head, they could buy one. If they want a real deal shower head, they should have it. It's true.
You pay a lot of money, and the developers, you're not allowed to do anything more. They put restrictors on. They used to have a restrictor where you could take it out, but now they weld it in. And you take a shower or wash your hands, whatever you do, including dishwashers where no water comes out. But you wash your hands, and in my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. And then shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip. It's ridiculous. And what you do is you end up washing your hands 5 times longer. So it's the same water.
Beautiful hair.
He's so descriptive. I love how he calls everything beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I know he loves using that adjective. Is that an adjective? Yeah. He is so funny. You can tell how relaxed he is.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to when he was.
I think he's just happier.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe that's because I kept trying to struggle with what is the best word, and it just seemed like a better mood,
Right.
maybe somehow, and it might be just the liberation of beating all of the forces that were trying to stop him from doing what it was that Americans want him to do, and I don't know. I think there's just a sort of a freedom and a liberation there that he's just in a better mood.
Yeah, well, and part of it is having the experience from before and being able to that he's probably not frustrated every single day in his job.
Yeah, he knows what to expect.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And and then having people around you that actually support what you're doing and carrying it out. I mean, it's like having employees that are working against you. I mean, he's finally having,
Right.
Now my employees are working for me instead of against me. So that makes a big difference.
Also, I believe it was yesterday, Mike Huckabee was it formally made ambassador to Israel?
He was confirmed as ambassador.
Oh, yesterday?
To Israel.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't see.
and
Okay,
here's
that's cool.
Trump's comments on that.
The Senate confirmed Governor Huckabee to be your next ambassador to Israel earlier today. That's his commission as ambassador. And then we also have a transmittal letter to the president of Israel requesting that he accept Ambassador Huckabee's credentials.
He's going to be fantastic. He's going to bring home the bacon. Even though bacon isn't too big in Israel. I had to clear that up.
The funny thing is, do you ever watch Sharf's face when he's doing this?
I'm
like,
such a huge Will Scharf fan.
He's like,
I just think he's hysterical.
That should show you that. I mean, God's will was not for him to be. He was a attorney general, right?
Yeah, he ran in the primary against Andrew Bailey.
Yeah, and because he was at the event last year that I spoke at, and he's really nice. And I thought, this is a great position to be in, but how in the world can you keep a straight face when you're reading to Trump and then Trump's?
Well, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm friends with the guy or anything. I've only been around him a couple of different times, but just the conversations I've had, and they weren't in any sort of official setting, and I remember particularly one event coming home telling my wife, I was like, this Will Scharf guy, there's just something about him I like. I think he's funny, but not in a traditional way, and not in he's trying to be funny way. He's just one of those people. I don't know. There's something. So when when I see him up there, and like you said, the look on his face, some of this stuff, there's just something about it I think is hysterical.
Well, if that was actually planned like that, because I remember in the beginning when he first did the first executive order and he was standing there, I remember him saying, "Why don't you read it?" And then they were kind of talking about doing it. So it wasn't something they planned, and then he just started doing it.
Well, and there were was a huge write-up just a week or two after the inauguration in the Daily Mail, and it was all, who is the guy next to Trump during these executive
No,
order
really?
signing because it was so, like all of a sudden, and nobody. Like, who is this guy? And he would, because Trump, I believe, at one point said, "Will you read?" He wanted him to read them out so people knew what he was signing,
Right.
and so people were paying attention to him, and he was just sort of out of nowhere for the average person, and it did somewhat organically. I think I think he should be on T-shirts.
So I know, obviously he's an attorney, but I mean, can you imagine explaining your job description? Well, I stand next to the president.
Well, his
and I read his
official
executive orders.
He's like the director of the Oval Office. I forget the exact title, but
what's his title?
we'll look it up during. Yeah, we'll look it up. We got to get traffic. But if I remember right, he essentially runs like the Oval Office. So that's why he's there. He's coordinating things. He's the one that makes all that stuff happen, if I remember correctly. But we'll get a traffic update, and we'll look at the exact title coming up here. Christy Fulnecki with us, Pyramid Roofing Company, talking text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 72. Tonight clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68.
A whole new generation is going to be introduced to the band Weezer. Yes, because one of the, I don't know, the bass players, someone in the band, wife went on some police chase. She was shot. She was arrested for attempted murder. And so because, I think under a certain age, a lot of people are like, who the hell's Weezer?
I haven't heard that name in forever.
So that's going to be in the news.
Okay. So, you didn't say his title.
Will Scharf.
His official title is Assistant to the President and White House Staff Secretary.
Okay, there we go. And what does it say that does? That the job description, like?
That is it.
No, but okay, what is he?
Oh, what is it? Besides reading.
What does that mean? Yeah.
He's assistant to the president.
Okay, that's helpful. That's very helpful. I'll look at it.
On KRCG 13 ABC, and I mean, it's just, that's where I got that official title, and then of course it's like, he's a failed candidate and this, that, and the other. Okay, so I had to scroll all the way down, and of course
like you.
Just let me say,
Like
yeah,
the one
can
thing I
relate to
actually
that,
want
yeah.
to know, and of course they don't put it in
He's talking about how educated he is and what he, did in his life. It just the last election you lost, which I can understand that.
He's a big fan of English soccer. There was a period of time he grew up over in England.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because one of his parents, I forget the background, but I want to say it's the Tottenham Hotspurs that maybe he's a fan of. I could be wrong about that, but so yeah, he's a big fan and follows soccer,
oversee
football.
circulation of presidential documents.
Okay, all right,
And of
so
course,
that makes sense.
proposed executive orders, speeches, and intelligence reports.
Okay.
Oh wow, what a cool job that is!
No kidding.
I mean,
you get to because you
losing your election,
right? I know. Yeah.
It's bad to be the attorney general of Missouri, but I mean, most of the time they're going to private practice or something. They don't go and, go to the White House. He's like the horse holder. They used to call, the assistants to the generals and the admirals. I think they still call them that, but they have cords on their shoulders. Somebody, I'm sure listening, knows what I'm talking about, but they have cords, and they used to call it because and actually I know because the superintendent at the Naval Academy, her assistant, that's military, has a cord on their shoulder.
Interesting.
They used to say it was horse holder, but I guess that's
well, you would think that's one of those positions that you just are going to be in the room with a lot of monumental historic things occurring.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, cool.
What an experience. And I can't even imagine the stuff that Trump says when he's sitting at that desk. Can you imagine what he says when he's just when it's
that's the sort of job you could write a book
totally.
afterwards, just the things you see and to your point, the behind the scenes casual conversations that occur and what people are really
now he's Trump's starting to come out and say probably what they talk about in private. He's talking about that coal thing. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. And talking about beautiful coal. Again, he was talking about the beautiful, clean coal. And he was going on and then he was talking about Biden being against it. And I wish I could, I don't know if you have that, but it was really funny because he said something like,
well, I know he said
Joe was against it and said something about
when he wasn't asleep.
Yeah, when he wasn't asleep. Yeah.
Time. Well, did you hear the Adam Schiff thing that he did? That when the Dodgers,
I heard. Do you have that?
Yeah, let me pull that.
We were listening to that last night because now, when the older kids are home and my oldest daughter, we all watch Gutfeld, and we were rolling. I was laughing so hard when he was talking about. Do you have that?
This is
that's so funny.
White House, and of course Adam Schiff, who was really the lead or one of the leads in creating the Russian collusion hoax, and so of course he got rewarded by being elected U.S. Senator in California.
Yeah.
And he's there obviously because the L.A. Dodgers, it's his state, and here is Trump. Of course, he references Schiff.
Others, we have a couple of senators here. I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team I didn't think it was that big a deal, actually. Washington.
I mean, it's his delivery has become like somebody at a roast.
I know.
He's just so casual and confident.
Okay, so I thought you were going to play the one when he's at the dinner and he starts talking about the size of his head.
Watermelon head. Okay. I don't have that one. Yeah. Yeah, he said we call him watermelon head. He's like, I've never seen a neck so small and a head so something. I haven't heard it. I read it.
So funny. And he's like going like this. And it was funny because on Jesse Waters, he had a picture of Schiff's head on top. Like it looked like it was on top of Trump's
Sarah,
finger.
Find that. We'll play it. I haven't heard it, but I read the transcript. What the thing I actually find even funnier and what I like about that audio is the difference between Trump's first term, where the left had become they were very successful in making people feel like they shouldn't do anything that made Trump look funny or look good. So you had a lot of teams that just, they were like, they didn't even know if they would go to the White House because they were afraid of the backlash. But we've gone from that to where, like, Trump had to stop what he was saying after that because they were all comfortable enough to just be laughing.
I know,
The
right.
the players were laughing. Everyone was just laughing about it. And so that sort of that bondage that the left had created to make Americans afraid
Right.
to express support for Trump or even to just not hate him, that has somehow gone. And I think that whole situation there really highlighted
Well,
it.
especially in sports, and we go to a lot of football games. So every time that they would, show the flag or show Trump, or I mean, they're, screaming, but it's so much backfired because they, with Kaepernick and everything that they try to do, the Black National Anthem, all the stuff that they did during sports, I mean, it really, people were getting so mad that now it's like kind of unleashing the support that was already there. So it wasn't, people weren't against him. It was just a small minority that was intimidating everybody else. And now they're free to,
And I think it's part of the reason the left is so angry now also because I believe that the election was a shocking wake-up call to them that they're not anywhere close to the majority, culturally speaking. That there's that show. I don't know if you watch White Lotus, and the third season just wrapped up, and Morgan and I like it. Now there were a couple of episodes that this third season I thought, okay, this is going a little too absurd and too far. But there was a scene in one of the episodes that got a lot of attention because it was these three gals. One, they're characters. One of them is a TV actress and her two friends, and they go to this resort just, to reconnect. And they're talking, and one of them she's talking about her church and going to church, and they're like, well, aren't you? They're talking about Trump and everything, but it was presented in a way that wasn't making the Trump supporting churchgoer character look bad at all. It was more of a, yeah, so what? And the Trump support, I don't know if she said, but she alluded to that she voted for him. So it was something that was seen as, well, that's kind of refreshing, a conversation about Trump that wasn't all about attacking the character who was supporting Trump. But one of the actresses in that scene did an interview, and she said that some of the context wasn't there because originally there was dialogue prior to that conversation in that scene in which the character talked about her transgender child. And after the election, the writer-director took that scene out after Trump got elected. Now, there wasn't elaboration on, there wasn't elaboration on the reason behind it, but what I think occurred, because the director, everything I know about him, I think he's, pretty left-wing, the developer of the show. And it wasn't like, out of fear or anything, but I think here's somebody who does have a goal of providing entertainment that appeals to a mass audience.
Yeah, and wanting them to watch it.
Yeah, and the election was like, oh my gosh, we have been wrong about we're not in the majority here. We are not, our belief system is, relatively speaking, the extreme position. And the fact that was taken out of there tells me that, at least for that particular director, there was this sort of realization that they are misunderstanding where the average American is in this country. And so
still do, because they're still trying to figure it out. And it's just funny how they try to talk like regular people. And Tampon Tim is like I don't know how he became the face of the Democrats lately, but I mean, he's always trying to, one up his masculinity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really, you just need to stop. Like, nobody believes you.
I want him to ride a horse shirtless like Putin.
And I do not think that you're going to overcome that.
Okay, let's take a quick break. And then we'll play the Trump audio with the watermelon head comment of Adam Schiff coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Okay, so some more audio here. Old Adam Schiff. You know, the funny thing, we played the audio earlier in which Trump, I think this is the best part of the LA Dodgers being at the White House. Schiff is there, of course, U.S. Senator from California. And then Trump is introducing people, and he's like, well, there's some senators here too, but I don't particularly like them, so I'm not going to introduce them. And the LA Dodgers everybody's laughing hysterically. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I'm thinking, here Adam Schiff really thinks he's something. You know, he's one of those guys you can just tell thinks he's more important than he is. And
he's a schmuck.
And so he's in there feeling all important and like this is his team because they're a team from California and he's there to represent them. And whenever Trump cracks a joke on him, it's the players that are all laughing at him.
The funny thing is, it requires no explanation because automatically they
knows.
They know.
Yes, everyone knows. So where was this event? Where was this a Republican of Denver? I think I saw there was a Republican congressional event or something. And I haven't heard this audio yet, read the transcript talking once again about Adam Schiff.
Difficulties and all of the fake investigations and the Adam Shifty Schiffs. Can you believe this guy? He's got the smallest neck I've ever seen. And the biggest head. We call him watermelon head. I'd say, how could that big fat face stand on a neck that looked like this finger? How could it? It was the weirdest thing. It's a mystery. Nobody can understand it.
I wish he had said scientists can't understand it.
It's just so funny because he hands up and he's like showing it. He's like twirling his finger.
Oh boy!
I mean, I was rolling. I can't believe that. It was hilarious.
Adam Schiff, he had responded with some sort of.
Oh, he did.
Well, you know, Trump clearly, you know, can't stop thinking. I don't remember whatever it was. It's like, you know what, dude? You're just funny to make fun of. I mean, that's just what it all boils down to. You're a dweeb. You're a California dweeb, and you know you're just fun to make fun of because you're kind of an idiot.
Trump has every right. He's just making fun of him. He's not throwing him in jail like they try to do to him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
him and the stupid January 6th committee. And what's
watermelon head with that fat face. I like how he says that's what we call him. Like when they're having discussions, you know, about
said like he's saying out loud what they say in private. And did you see what he said about Adam Kissinger? What Kissinger? The guy that was on the committee with
Kissinger,
Cheney,
for Illinois,
the minority member. And he was talking about him somewhere yesterday, and he's like, he's always crying.
Yeah, he's a weirdo. He's such a weirdo. All right, got to get a traffic update more with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. I do have a text line question for you, Christy, coming up. First, though, I want to play audio because I
Okay.
know how much you love audio of Louisiana Senator Kennedy.
This was epic.
This,
He
have you heard this one, Sarah?
he's a savage.
He's always got good singers.
Yeah, he's talking about in this one. It was a number of different individuals sitting with Hannity. Hannity's talking with him, and the subject of Ocasio-Cortez came up.
Leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie.
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle. Plan for dealing.
You didn't find that out. We got to hurry.
Our plan for dealing with her is called Operation Let Her Speak.
See, reason their directions on a shampoo bottle. He does. He always comes up
This
with.
is so
Yeah.
original.
It's very clever. All right, so on the
Yeah,
Pyramid
listen.
Roofing Company talk and text line, question for Christy Fulnecki. I know your daughter's at the Naval Academy. Our son is at the Air Force Academy. There's a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of unrest right now about the reduction of civilian professors to increase percentage of military teachers. This is the same thing happening at the Naval.
No, but I did hear that they did have a transgender professor that
Oh, well.
they let go, and but Secretary Hegseth, he was there last Tuesday, and so some of them got pictures, and then he spoke when they were eating lunch, and then in the big auditorium, and I guess he was an awesome speaker, but there was all the talk about it was kind of fun. I mean, she said he was really funny, and he was imitating Trump in Trump's voice.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's like, the president said to tell you hello, and he was like doing all this stuff imitating Trump. And I said, well, what was the reaction? Because they're supposed to be, apolitical, and they're, at least
Right. Yeah.
midshipmen, and I assume the cadets too at the other schools. And she said that they were all laughing at the jokes,
And something the left cannot understand or comprehend, the relationship that Trump supporters have with Trump. And it is like a friendship where you can sort of like razz on each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And imitate. And the left cannot understand.
Especially with the military. I mean, you look at the secretary, and you look at JD Vance. I mean, they have both been in the military, and so they're like speaking to their own people. And then Hegseth was talking about the Army Navy game, and he's like, I'm sure the Navy's gonna kill us again this year, and so he was getting all the kids really riled up about football.
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
great.
it was great. She said he gave an amazing speech.
It's much more uplifting and inspiring than talking about white privilege. And that sort of.
Very clear, which I think it's so smart that he's going around talking to the academies, and I'm sure the fleets and everybody else. Is that he said, your only purpose here is to be a fighting force, and we are getting all the woke out of here. And I'm surprised that the kids were clapping and they were supporting, and because you don't get a sense, at least, she only has like the first semester compared to. But, having someone there, you don't know if you're supposed to clap or if that's okay. Right. But she said, I get the sense that everybody supports him here.
Culturally. That's good. Hey, I forgot to throw it to you on Russell. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. I live in an older farmhouse, which means that everything in my home is older, which I had Russell out at my home yesterday to give me an update on the health of my HVAC. And what I found out is that my furnace is almost the same age as me. It's 28 years old, and it's very outdated, and even though it is still functioning, it's time for me to get an update. We also looked at my AC unit, and it's kind of about the same age, too. So that will be in the works later this year for my home, and I couldn't think of a better group of people to help me with all of my HVAC needs, which also leads me to this. Foreman is hiring. Now, Russell, he is looking for experienced service techs and installers to join the team. So if you want to work for a locally owned business with a great atmosphere, reach out to Russell today. So whether you're like me and you need to do some HVAC updates, or you are looking to join the Foreman Mechanical team, head over to foremanmechanical.com. And of course, you can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
And as always, Chrissy Fulnecki, thank you so much.
Yes, I'm signing off as Kiki the Comanche today.
Yes.
I like
Kiki the Comanche. That could be a Pixar film.
Let's get some music.
I was going to say, yeah, you need some music.
Yeah.
I'll find something.
You can play it every time I come on. Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, now we can get.
Do some bongos.
We have Author of the Week coming up in the next hour. It's actually due to very popular demand. It's going to be a revisit of a previous Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Especially those of you that may be listening for the first time. You're always welcome here. We're one big, giant family. Tomorrow we will be broadcasting live from Scramblers. It is the Friday Road Show every Friday. We're at Scramblers, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air, now at KSGF.com. In addition to streaming the show or listening to past episodes you may have missed, podcast form, you can register to win tickets. Hank Williams Jr., Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, Saturday, August 16th. Register now. And we are in the final days of the Love Letters from the Left. This is rounding out our bracket as we get out of March into April. And what we did this year, we always do a different bracket. We took comments that we felt best highlighted the level of intellect from the left, some of the listeners on the left, and take some of their different statements that they have made through text messages, emails, or social media postings directed specifically at us, and put those up in the bracket. What are the final two down?
I
Do you remember
wonder what
offhand?
Nazi Nick is going to say today, and then I hope your plane crashes, which is in reference to us leaving for the KSGF Great Escape.
Yeah, on our trips that we do. So that's what it's boiled down to. It's between those two, and every time you vote, that is an entry to win a $250 Visa gift card, courtesy of our friends at Garrison Roofing and Guttering. So just, a little bit of fun there. Speaking of Great Escape, we should be, I know you probably get tired of me saying it's coming, but we should be announcing it very soon. We've got it all done and everything, but the final step is having our corporate people, our like corporate attorney or whatever, sign off on it. But there's nothing really different about this one than past ones in terms of anything that should be of like a red flag to an attorney or anything. And so we don't anticipate that there's going to be any sort of holdup on it. It's just a matter of waiting. That being said, if you've been on one of our past Great Escapes, if you want to go ahead today and reach out to Cam, she can give you the details and get your information to reserve your slot. So that way you don't have to worry about, as always, we're going to have a limited number, and that's mostly based just off, in fact, I think the airplane, the chartered flight is full in terms of seats that are reserved. And so that's where the limitations generally come in. Is it's not the resort itself, but it is the number of seats on the plane, because we do chartered flight directly there. If you've not been on one of these trips, it's incredible. Those of you who have been, of course, you already know, and you can reach out, go ahead, get a hold of Cam. Now, if you think, we'll do it Friday, the offices where she works, they're closed on Friday. So I would recommend that you do it today. And do you know her number offhand? Just throwing it to you here.
Well, you keep talking and I'll find it.
All right. We have Author of the Week coming up here in just a couple of moments. It's an author that we actually have had in the past. I was talking to Valerie, owner of ABC Books, the other day, and she had mentioned that one of the recent Author of the Week interviews that we did really got they all get responses, but she's like, that one we got a really big response on. And there was the Author of the Week that I had scheduled for this week. It ended up not happening for a number of different reasons that are irrelevant. And so I found myself in a position of finding one that we've done in the past to replay. And I thought, we'll replay this one. And so the book is, the author's a doctor that from the very beginning of COVID began to recognize, when it came to pregnant mothers, the unintended side effects of the COVID shots on unborn children, and began to speak up. And because of that, we know what happened to anyone that asked any questions that were out of line with the great Fauci. He suffered for that, and so we'll talk with him coming up. And again, it's a replay of an interview that we did some time ago, but I think you'll really enjoy it. And that is sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. If you've been on a past Great Escape and you want to go ahead and get the details before we open it to the public, and then of course, if you want, reserve your slot. The number.
It is 417-887-8898.
excuse me, a lot of you probably will have that information anyhow already. So, but if you don't, that's the number to go ahead and call. All right, we got traffic in a moment right now. Latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 72. Tonight clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny skies with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68.
I'm Nick Reed. It's Thursday, which of course means it is time for Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author today, Dr. James Thorpe, a board-certified OBGYN and maternal fetal medicine physician, seen over 27,500 high-risk pregnancies in 4.5 years while serving one of the largest Catholic healthcare systems of St. Louis. Dr. Thorpe, currently the chief of maternal and prenatal health at the Wellness Company, among many other resume items and accolades. I thank you for being with us this morning. The book, Sacrifice, How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. We've actually had a couple of different authors in different capacities on this. We actually had one individual that was one of the original test subjects of COVID vaccines. I'd like to just start off by asking you what it is that prompted you to write the book.
Well, thanks for having me on, Nick. Yes, what prompted me to write the book was the atrocities that I saw, after 44 years of practicing as a high-risk OBGYN physician and seeing an entire system gone mad, especially obstetricians, 60,000 of them controlled by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, who were bribed and used their authority to threaten those 60,000 OBGYN physicians to push the vaccines in the most vulnerable.
Now, when it comes to the unborn and the vaccines, if you would walk us through the initial of course, COVID, and then the so-called vaccines, I say, because they, don't actually prevent you from getting COVID or passing it along. But I'm curious your experience as you began to recognize that, hey, this isn't necessarily right. And then you saw your colleagues and the culture that you were in going way off track. Tell us about that, if you would.
Right. Well, Nick, in 2020, again, I was one of the senior maternal fetal medicine physicians for the SSM health system in St. Louis. And so, of course, I was very skeptical of the hype in late 2019 and 2020. And, I really saw nothing but a lot of hype from the government controlled systems around the country. In terms of obstetrical outcome, I didn't see any adverse consequences from COVID-19, none whatsoever. All the disasters that I saw occurred after the rollout of the vaccine in 2021.
So then you began, I imagine, to see around you people having a much different perspective of what was going on. It just seemed as if, and this is obviously the way it was portrayed in the media, there was a consensus that this was the path to take and that these vaccines were the answer to everything. And what was that like to watch your colleagues that are supposed to be science-based, of course, seemingly going way off track and seeing the vaccine as the end all be all for things, including pregnant women?
Yeah, it was really an astounding phenomena. It was especially for OBGYN doctors that know the golden rule of pregnancy and really have lived with the after effects of the thalidomide disaster, just in the last 50 years, and also the diethylstilbestrol disaster, which was even worse, the DES disaster. So, we've always looked at the golden rule of pregnancy. You never, ever use a novel substance. And when I pointed out to everyone that, no, this is wrong, this is a dangerous, highly inflammatory experimental injection, which is not even a vaccine. It's going to be a disaster in pregnancy. I was mocked, derided, and threatened.
Now, and this is something that you've testified to, you observed due to the shots, pregnancy complications, miscarriages, stillbirths, and a number of other tragic outcomes. As your colleagues, clearly in some capacity, they must have witnessed these things as well. How did they reconcile that with their perspective that no, vaccines are absolutely necessary?
Yes. What they did was a couple of things. First, understand that they were all under threat. On September 27th, 2021, as all of our major governing organizations were bribed with massive amounts of money from the Department of Health and Human Services, if they didn't push the vaccines in pregnancy and push the draconian narratives of the government, as in this letter they were sent from the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they would lose their state licenses and their board certifications, everything they had worked for. It would destroy their career. So that was one MO. The other was that, never heretofore in the history of the world has such a mass propaganda, fifth generation warfare been put out ever. And this was planned. This was planned for at least a decade, Event 201 and multiple other programs like that. So this was, probably $5 to $10 trillion of hype, basically bribing and pushing fear and negotiating under the illegal, unethical contracts with every fabric thread of the tapestry of our society to push this as safe, effective, and necessary, and the only way out of the vaccine, the only way out of the pandemic, excuse me.
We are talking with our author of the week, Dr. James Thorpe. The book is Sacrifice: How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. and I suppose it'd be somewhat anecdotally, but I'm curious in your experience as you were pretty isolated in your willingness to call out what you observed and to stand up for what was right here. Those others that were not, what do you have a sense of breakdown? How many of those were just complicit because, hey, I don't want to rock the boat, I don't want to lose my profession, versus those who just bought into it for whatever reason, versus those that maybe just don't think for themselves? I'm curious of what you saw as the makeup of those who fell into compliance.
It's a great question. We as physicians, really over the last 20 years, have been groomed to, first of all, we've been purchased and employed by hospital systems that are controlled by the government. And we've been groomed increasingly to follow this fake term called evidence-based medicine, which is completely fraudulent. It's an algorithmic form of medicine that comes from the government and the hospitals that get reimbursed more for following it. So we've been slowly groomed. The second one is that how dare you ever question the authority of the CDC, the FDA? How dare you ever question the authority of the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet Medical Journal, and the rest of the medical journals? How can you go against all this science? Well, little did they know that these were nothing more than government actors. Then director of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, by the way, she's fled to Germany now. She was involved in a money laundering operation with the New England Journal of Medicine. And she, it's my opinion that she colluded, and we published this. She colluded with the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine. This is conspiracy. This is collusion. And there was laundering of money between Walensky and the New England Journal of Medicine editor-in-chief, Eric Rubin, to push the vaccine, this lethal, dangerous gene therapy in the most vulnerable pregnant women. And that was on April 21st, 2021. There were 2 articles, and I believe that this was fraudulent, it was illegal, it was absolutely false science, and it was a money laundering operation. This is how Walensky and the CDC and many others, Francis Collins, Jeffrey Zients of the White House, this is how they operated. This was a mass totalitarian push to control the population.
You mentioned, I think you used the term algorithm in terms of how it is that hospitals operate any longer. And I'm curious because it sounds to me as if maybe part of the systemic problem is that the systems have shifted away from that overly simplistic, hey, are we making the patient better, into one that's more, the process is more important. The more that the process is followed, that is what is used as a measuring stick for success. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. That's very accurate. I think that, what's happened, when you look back and you look at the financial incentives for a hospital from numerous different agencies in early 2020, first, if they tagged a patient with a diagnosis in the ER or admitted with COVID-19, they got a supplemental reimbursement. If they admitted the patient and put a tag of diagnosis of COVID, they got even more monies. If they admitted the patient to an intensive care unit, they got even more money. If they admitted a patient to the ICU and intubated them, they got another massive increment of money. If they used a deadly drug called remdesivir, which is even more, it's extraordinarily dangerous, up to a 30 to 40% mortality rate in many studies. If they used that drug, they'd even get more. And if they put the patient in the morgue, they would get even more. You add up all those subsidies, even if the patient was killed in a motorcycle accident, if they put him in the morgue with a diagnosis of COVID-19, some estimates say that it's $200,000 per patient that ended up in the morgue with a diagnosis of COVID-19 as a cause of death.
Final question for our author of the week, Dr. James Thorpe. The book, Sacrifice, How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. It sounds as if the way that you present this, and just my basic understanding as well, is that, well, one, I back up and say, I don't feel as if there's ever been this cultural acknowledgement. Yes, we handled this poorly, so we need to figure out a way to make sure it doesn't happen again. I suspect even if that were the case, however, it would be something along the lines of, oh, we'll set up panels and we'll have these groups to, put checks and balances in place to make sure this doesn't. But and to me, that doesn't seem to come anywhere close to actually getting to the root of the problem. What is it that needs to happen to make sure that this sort of thing, which to me is just one of many spokes in this wheel of disaster that has been crafted in the way that we do medicine any longer in this country, what has to happen in order to get back to where really what is important is the health of the patient?
But it's simply impossible when you look at $4.5 trillion our healthcare budget for the United States of America. There's so much fraud that is incorporated in the system. So many people that are brought up. I think complete transparency. I think what my research team has extensively published on the corruption of the NGOs, non-government organizations that have essentially acting as government actors. And that includes not only all the medical organizations, but also the media. They all acted as government actors and were paid as such. And so specifically with regard to my area of specialty, 3 organizations are corrupt, fraudulent, and they killed and injured the most vulnerable. And not just in the United States of America, all over the world. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, ABOG, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. As goes those 3 organizations, as goes the rest of the world for obstetrical care. And they, to this very day, are pushing this lethal organization by the book. Okay, I wrote a chapter in there, an open letter to the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology after they threatened me. Dr. George Wendell, then executive director of the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, threatened me with my license and with my certification. I said, we'll see about that. So I published a 98-page letter 3 years ago now, in January of 2022, responding to them, reviewing all of the governmental data showing the devastating pregnancy complications. I also cited multiple other experts and sources all over the world. And if that weren't enough, I cited 1,019 peer-reviewed medical journal articles in just 12 months after the rollout of the vaccine, documenting death and injury from the vaccine. And guess what? After that got published 3 years ago, crickets. Well, they knew they were dead wrong.
And I know I said that was the last question, but I do one quick one because I'm sure people listening are wondering, as we hear so much in the first several weeks of the Trump administration, transparency. RFK Jr. seems to have this real theme of recognizing that there are problems, and that transparency is a term that he's used a lot, providing information. Although it may not fix the problem as insurmountable as it sounds, do you think that that is at least the step in the right direction and that it might be helpful in some capacity?
Absolutely. If Bobby stays true to his word, which I believe he will, and I believe that if the American people see how these healthcare institutions and our government killed and injured us for profit. Listen, this is $60 billion per year of revenue to the pharmaceutical industry for vaccines. That's a year. $60 billion of vaccine revenues to the pharmaceutical companies. And what a business plan they have. Then they get another $500 or $600 billion for the therapies which they market to treat the injuries they cause by the vaccine. So this is a kind of nonsense, and this is a kind of government corruption that needs to, the entire world needs to see this. We need to see it. And it's the American people that have been experimented on. You know, right. Nick, we spend over $13,000 per year per person in the United States of America for healthcare. Compare that to India, $65, and they have a much better grade report card healthcare outcomes than we do. And it's because we, the American people, are being abused and acted as test subjects for these kleptocratic corporate government entities to make money off of.
Our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, Dr. James Thorpe. The book again, Sacrifice: How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Yep. And refinancing needs, maybe reverse mortgage is something you could benefit from. It's going to depend on your particular situation. That's what the Carrickers and their team are there for, not just to make it happen, but to give you all the information that you need based off your particular financial situation so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And then once that happens, you decide yes or no. Of course, if the answer is yes, then they'll help guide you through that. That is the Carrickers and their team right here in Springfield. And your starting point is iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. Hank Williams Jr. live in concert Saturday, April 16th, Thunder Ridge Nature Arena. You can register for your chance to win tickets to that by going to ksgf.com. And not much time left. Down to the final 2 left-wing statements sent to KSGF. These are love letters from the left, different emails, text messages, and postings directed specifically at us here at KSGF. And we had a bracket of those, and it's down to those final 2. Voting Gets you automatically registered for a random drawing, $250 Visa gift card, courtesy of Garrison Roofing and Guttering. Thank you to them for sponsoring our bracket this year. And tomorrow, of course, Friday, we will be at Scramblers. Friday Roadshow sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks' first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies throughout the day with a high near 72. Tonight clear with a low around 42. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 61. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see sunny skies with a high near 68.
We are most likely days away. It could be as early as Monday, but anticipating early next week, we will announce the details and open to the public the upcoming Great Escape. I can tell you it is going to be in November, the 9th through the 6th. No,
The 9th through the 15th.
9th through the 15th. Now, if you've been on a past Great Escape, of course, you get to reserve your slot ahead of time before it's open to the public. So if you want to get a hold of Cam, and we'll give you that number in just a moment, then you can go ahead and do so and get the full details of the trip. And then if you want to reserve your slot, then you can go ahead and do that. Some of you, if you are in the groups, the Facebook groups of past Great Escapes, I know Sarah posted information on those different group chats or Facebook pages, not all of the details, but telling you that Cam is expecting you and knows that, this is the window of opportunity for those of you who have been on past trips before we do open it to the public. So that's something we always try to provide as a benefit to people who are regular Great Escapers, or, of course, that starts with one. So if you've just been on any in the any in the past. As always, I anticipate, particularly with Cam, scouting out the locations, that it's just going to be an incredible time, and just always look forward to it. It sounds goofy and cliched to say, but it really, the the locations are always important, and the food and the service, but the people that go. I mean, just our last, you weren't able to make it to our happy hour, but there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 couples that that go to the Great Escapes that were there, and including one who lives in Illinois and was in the area and stopped by, and so it was kind of nice for that little reunion. And it's just something you will not be sorry if you attend, and if you've not gone on one, I'm just telling you, I think you will have such a fantastic time. So we look forward to it. And the getting together part is, for me, what I really do enjoy the most. The number, do you have that handy?
I do.
For people who have gone, if they want to call Cam
Yep.
and go ahead.
So the office number for Cam is 417-887-8898.
All right. There you have it. And her offices are closed on Friday.
Correct.
So if you are wanting to go ahead and make sure you get your spot, or at least get information about it, I would recommend you call sometime today, because Friday, if you call, there will be no answer. This is what I think is a pretty interesting story for a number of different reasons. Kennedy Center breaks all-time attendance record for a public event after Trump takeover. This past March, the Kennedy Center's Earth to Space Arts Breaking the Sky fireworks display saw over 11,000 in attendance, which is a new record for a public event. The history-making moment was celebrated amid a flurry of criticism from liberals about President Donald Trump's takeover of the entertainment facility. Critics voiced concerns about Trump's understanding and appreciation for the arts when he took control of the Kennedy Center. However, attendance numbers have told a different story. With the focus on shifting away from politically charged programming, the facility experienced tremendous success with a wildly attended fireworks show. A Kennedy Center rep noted that 76% of all attendees at the event had never stepped foot in the venue before. It's 3 out of 4. Never even been there before. The event was open to the public with free first-come, first-served tickets available on the Kennedy Center website. Visitors took in the show on the 360-degree rooftop terrace, flocked to the Riverwalk to take in the magic of art as the fireworks filled the sky above the Potomac River. The first 800 visitors were treated to a VIP experience by having the opportunity to send an individual firework into the sky through the CAITM Sai Guan Quan's custom AI model web interface. Now, one, the way that the art display is described, I think it does it a little bit of a disservice. I didn't know who Sai Guo Quan was. I wasn't familiar with this person, so I thought, well, I'll do a little research on this individual. Because when the story listed as a fireworks display, it's like, well, that's not art. That's just an excuse for a bunch of hillbillies to get together and see things shot off into the sky. Sai Guo Quan is this world-renowned artist, and he does much of his art in the form of fireworks, sometimes during the day, where the smoke is actually what becomes the art, or he will have giant canvas laid out and lay out fireworks that will leave designs. And, some of it, frankly, is the sort of thing that a lot of people would go, that's art. Some of it is, I think, visually more impressive than other things for some, in terms of what it takes in order to accomplish it. Much of what drives him growing up during the Cultural Revolution in China, he has this approach, the juxtapositioning of the dangers and horrors of what gunpowder can do in the context of war, and then how at the same time that exact same substance can make beautiful art. He was commissioned by the Olympics to craft the entire artistic display by way of fireworks during the Beijing Olympics, and he's just this world-renowned, respected artist. So he's not I mention this because I think when you read this story as a fireworks display, it can make it sound like, oh, it was just a free fireworks show. But that's not who this is. This guy is a respected artist, and in the political context, definitely among the left as well. Or actually, I just went to YouTube, put his name in, and there are a number of different documentaries and news pieces about him and his upbringing and his art. It may be of interest to you. I found some of it to be pretty interesting. The other part of this story, however, is here, of course, Donald Trump, and he's not running the show. He put people in charge to run the Kennedy Arts Center. The former ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, was named the interim president, while Trump replaced outgoing chair David Rubenstein. And, of course, there were a lot of artists who refuse to provide their art any longer because they hate Donald Trump. Now, I always thought that was a pretty sad thing and diminishes what we're told art is all about, that art transcends politics, that art should know no political limits, that this is the one thing that connect all human beings together. But we see the hypocrisy of the people that oftentimes lead with that message. They do it when it's virtue signaling and when it's all about them and their people. But the moment outsiders get involved, they take their toys and they go home. All of a sudden, well, I don't want those people to enjoy my art. And so we see that for a lot of these people, it is more about prestige. It is more about money. It is more about labels than it actually is the art itself, because when it really comes down to it, the moment that outsiders get involved, they don't want anything to do with it. The fact that 76% of the people that attended this record-breaking, it was record-breaking in terms of the number of people that went to a public event at the Kennedy Center. I think it says a lot about the transition from what has been the Kennedy Center as this entity that essentially was a country club for the rich and elite. That it was a tight-knit little group of people that took taxpayer dollars in order to throw themselves parties, to give themselves awards, in order to pat themselves on the back, to throw little events that is meant all for them. And the kicker is this collectively is one of the richest group of people, not just in the United States, in the world, and they're taking our tax dollars in order to throw themselves these soirees and these celebrations and these great events. You want to talk about the accusation that the left always throws at, Republicans want to raise taxes on, hardworking people in order to benefit their rich friends. Well, if ever there was a true example of the average hardworking person having their paycheck taken partially from them in order to benefit the wealthy and the elite, the Kennedy Center has long proven to be an example of that. I mean, the audacity of those people sneering and looking down on average MAGA Americans, on blue-collar workers, on, stay-at-home moms, while expecting them, the average person who goes to work and has their money taken away from them by way of taxes and then funneled to these rich limousine elites so they can throw parties for themselves. It's disgusting. And I imagine now they look at it as soiled, because here a taxpayer-funded institution has transitioned from this country club for the elite to a place that its first public showing, a record-breaking number of people coming out, 76% of which had never even stepped foot in the facility. So probably average Americans. Now, when it comes to the arts, and if really, truly, people in the arts, they always talk about, we want to expose people to the arts. We want to expand. What can we do to expand our reach? Who's done a better job so far? previous administrations in which it's always been the closed-door country club for the rich elite Hollywood types, or under Donald Trump, in which 76% of the 11,000-plus record number of people that showed up had never even been there before. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? That Donald Trump puts people in charge that actually, out of the gate, are exposing more people to the arts than all of the so-called true appreciators of the arts ever have. It's the difference between virtue signaling and actual results. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, with those recent severe storms that we had last week, door knockers are going to be out and about, and oftentimes they don't have you in your home in the best interest of mind. So if you do have a door knocker come out and you do have storm damage, I really want to recommend my friends over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. They are the trusted roofing professionals. Now, whenever you come out, or whenever the Pyramid team comes out and does that free roof inspection for you, they're going to check everything from your vents, your gutters, your decking, and then they're going to come up with the best solution for you and your home. Sometimes that doesn't mean a whole new roof. Maybe that means just a simple roof repair. Either way, the Pyramid Roofing Company team, they'll get you all taken care of. They'll also work through that insurance process with you without making you sign anything, which not all roofing companies do that, by the way. So if you do have storm damage, highly recommend Josh and his team. You can schedule that free roof inspection today, and you can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
John Stamos, whom many of you know as Uncle Jesse from Full House, is having to defend the fact that he is emceeing a charity event that is raising money for nurses because the venue happens to be Mar-a-Lago. So now nurses are the target. Nurses, apparently for the left, are at least those who want to help, or the individuals that want to help raise dollars for nurses, are the new Tesla drivers. It doesn't matter your political affiliation, they are going to come after you. Full House star John Stamos doubling down on his decision to participate in the recent charity event, which happens to be at the Mar-a-Lago estate, amid backlash from Democrats. Declaring, this is John Stamos having to declare, supporting nurses is not political. He said, I accepted the invitation to MC the Palm Beach Ray of Hope Gala, an evening dedicated to honoring and uplifting our frontline heroes. He explained this in an Instagram post posted to his account on Monday, noting the nonpartisan event supports the Academy for Nursing and Health Occupation, a 501c3 organization that trains 350 to 400 nurses every year, directly addressing the critical shortage of healthcare professionals in Palm Beach County. Supporting nurses is not political, it's essential. These are the people who care for us and our families when we need it the most, and I believe we should show up for them with the same unwavering dedication they show up with every single day. I stand by the importance of health care, of service, and of investing in those who care for our communities. This is the sickness of the left. Democrat activists on social media posting everything from quote, F. John Stamos. Another, John Stamos at Mar-a-Lago. Disappointing. Uncle Jesse would never. Time to cancel Full House reruns. Can't watch without thinking of this betrayal. Another, R.I.P. Uncle Jesse, which given the violence and assassination attempts, it's very concerning. Quote, you're effing dead to me. Another saying Stamos ruined his brand forever by visiting Mar-a-Lago. These people are sick. The left will make anyone an enemy if they are not in full and complete compliance. So here you have an event highlighting and helping raise funds for nurses. But because the venue has a connection to someone they hate, we must burn it to the ground and destroy at all cost. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Text message. Thank you, Nick and Co., for replaying that interview with Dr. James Thorpe this morning. After the first interview, I bought his book, Sacrifice, immediately. Couldn't put it down. I'm now reading it slowly a second time for deeper comprehension. Makes my blood boil. 35 years as a pharmacist in a hospital practice made it easy for me to appreciate the money, lust poisoning these institutions and their toxic relationship with any outside agency like government and big pharma that would have no problem bribing them. And a thank you, of course, to ABC Books on North Glenstone for making it possible. See you at Scramblers tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.